What is up, guys? It's Magnet back here with yet another Legacy of the Void beta cast. Today let's take a look at a game here between Top, who's the red Terran, fighting against puCK, who is listed as this barcode, but he's the blue Terran, or excuse me, the blue Protoss. I know what races these are, I promise. Only been playing this game for a while, but apparently you need some time to learn. By the way, this replay is sent to us courtesy of puCK. If you guys want to watch live puCK games in first person, check out his stream, which is linked down there at the bottom left and in the description. Say hi, tell him I sent you over. Definitely some very good Protoss play over there. Let's go ahead and take a look at this game. Top opening up with the gas first. Cyclones are extremely common against Protoss right now, so would not be surprised at all to see something like that. Barracks comes down as well. This all is very, very standard for Legacy of the Void, at least this current iteration, until the patch hits, which is going to be something that I just talked about in a recent video, so go back and check that out if you guys haven't seen it yet. By the way, to provide a little bit of context on who Top is if you guys don't know, Top was a GSL finalist. He lost against MVP in a really crazy series, especially I think it was game 1 or 2, I can't remember, on Daybreak. But MVP was basically the best Wings of Liberty player. Top fought him in the GSL finals. He did lose. And it seems like ever since then, Top just kind of ceased to exist in the world of StarCraft in terms of being a pro gamer. So he's still out there streaming, he's still playing games, but he's one of those Koreans that's just kind of floating out and not really able to get on a team or do anything like that. He definitely has the talent to do something like that, but oddly enough, not getting picked up. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. But as far as the game state, I was just showing you guys here on the observing that puCK going for a fast Nexus, very common here from Protoss, as it was common back in Heart of the Swarm as well. And Top, like we expected, going for the quicker factory, going to add this tech lab here. All things, or rather all signs, point to Cyclone, so wouldn't be surprised to see anything like that come out here very, very soon. But yeah, the meta right now for this matchup is Nexus timed about at this time. This can be a little bit weak to Reapers, depends on the map size, depends on the spawn positions. But they go for a super fast Nexus before really getting any units on the field. And Terran usually likes to go for this fast Cyclone because it basically pays for a free Stalker kill and a free Mothership Core kill. And you have to take some really weird measures to hold stuff like this off. You have to, get a second gateway. You can try to open Stargate and lift it up with a Phoenix or something like that, but that really hinders your economy quite a bit. Not to mention it doesn't always come out on time. So you got to do some weird stuff against these Cyclones. And it's just, I don't know. They're obviously looking at changing this unit already. The biggest problem is the range that it gets when it locks on, considering it can move around, and there's really nothing that Protoss can do about it once they get a unit locked on, unless they just hope the Terran messes up and lets the unit out of the range. So, oddly enough though, by the way, a little bit of extra something on the top of this game is that there's a starport coming up before the expansion. So this is a pretty tech-heavy build. Cyclone coming across the map right now, so Top finally dropping his command center, but puCK has had his Nexus finished for a little while, so he definitely has a reasonable economy advantage. By the way, bring this SCV up here. This is going to be to repair the Cyclone, so this is a very strange dynamic. puCK just kind of waiting for the Cyclone to waste its lock on, because if it locks onto a probe here, it actually can't re-lock on. So puCK can pull some probes, try to defend this Cyclone the best he can. You can see the lock on range here on the one Stalker, he does get it out of there. And puCK trying to surround with these probes. He builds a pylon in the way of the Cyclone. So he actually finds a really cute way to deal with this, and he gets it down there. So the one probe, dropping a pylon here to block that Cyclone, really nice play out of puCK. Able to definitely get his money's worth as far as defending that. Cyclone still did some work though, but still getting cute with the little probe surrounds, getting the pylons on there. Top accidentally keeping the heli around for too long. The Hellion follow-up with this, by the way, can be vicious, because if the Cyclone's able to kill your first couple of Stalkers, the Hellions just run free, and that's bad news when all you have are probes. So, behind all this, by the way, puCK does have a Twilight Council, so he likely going to be going for, yep, Blink, does get that on the way right away. A weird drop coming out of here of Top. 2 Hellions, 1 Marauder, and 1 Marine. You don't see stuff like this all the time. puCK definitely senses it coming, so he has Stalkers in position to push this thing away. Also adding a pylon, so puCK could be getting pretty aggressive behind this Blink, so we'll have to see as soon as it finishes what he wants to do with it. But behind this Top, again, the fast medevac is going to be what that's for, so Top's opener thus far hasn't done too much, and he was kind of relying on this drop to do quite a bit on the follow-up. So it was basically Cyclone into Hellion into a drop, but puCK has done really well as far as defending all those. These 3 Stalkers, especially catching this medevac, was a big deal, because if these Hellions can run in here and kill, you know, 6 or 7 probes, and all of a sudden it becomes totally worth it to take such a late command center. puCK pulling his workers here. Again, really nice positional blocks on the Hellion. The Hellions do get a really big shot here, so killing a handful of workers. And still the drop's being denied, so this Blink Opener is doing really well as far as controlling space against all the stuff that top is bringing so far. Only a handful of workers gone down, 6, not really enough to justify the later command centers. You can see the incomes definitely do favor puCK by a pretty reasonable margin right now. So we'll have to see what the follow-ups are from these guys and what all this is going to eventually mean over time. Adding in Widow Mines here, so a couple Widow Mines in this army, standard bio, I think he already does have stim, so yeah, that is researched. Combat shields on the way. By the way, did they fix this? No, they didn't. So I still don't actually have a way to examine stuff here on the UI. And as soon as they get that fixed, I'll probably switch over to a new observing interface to make it easier for you guys to watch the game and not have all this clunky stuff in the way. Stalkers come over here and pick off 2 Hellions. So on one hand, top does know what's going on as far as a big Stalker move out, but at the same time, he's not really too prepared for this right now. So puCK gonna probably attack up here with these Stalkers. Unfortunately, it looks like the mine is just barely out of range of this observer. So he blinks 1 Stalker back as soon as the mine targets it, so really nice control here out of puCK so far. Unfortunately, starting to lose some Stalkers, as trying to power through Marauders with the medevacs behind them is going to be pretty difficult, even though they did get nerfed. So even though there was really nice control there out of puCK, and now the observer does get sniped, by the way, not really getting the greatest of returns on that. He did kill a handful of Marauders. I think he knocked down a bunker here, but I don't even know if he killed the Marauders that were inside, so kind of an okay trade, but all of a sudden the supplies are now starting to even up a little bit as top does get more and more into this game. Still a hefty worker lead for puCK. He's going to take his 3rd base, going to start adding on Disruptors, and he does already have the Warp Prism for it, so we've seen this story before as far as getting Disruptors out, doing things like drops on workers, trying to blow up the army when the other player isn't looking, stuff like that. All kinds of cute stuff you can do. Top actually scanning for observers right now, not going to be able to get anything, so basically just a wasted scan. I guess always worth it, but if you have a keen enough eye, you actually can spot those observers even with their cloak. Charge is on the way behind this, and I guess we're just going to see what happens with this army composition. puCK really needs a Disruptor hit to be able to hold this off. He only has a finite amount of time, and these Blink Stalkers definitely get worse as the Terran army starts to scale up. So for now, just overcharging, trying to buy as much time as possible, bringing forward the Disruptor, and it looks like no effect is going to be had as that, so he just loads it back to the Warp Prism. Both sides just kind of zoning each other out. As this mine is out, I don't even think there's an observer on the field, so we'll have to check that out. Yeah, no observer. So these mines are going to become quite a pain over an extended period of time. Still, nobody really taking any losses thus far. The downside for top is he has no idea this Nexus is on the way. Otherwise, I think he could probably easily cancel this. The drop-offs from the side, top has no response, and he just blows up the whole army. So, LOL, that's what you get for keeping your army out on the map and not paying attention. If he was keeping it active, he probably could have canceled this Nexus, or at least forced the Protoss to do something bad, but puCK is just like, lol, I'll just drop this Disruptor next to you and blow up your army because you're not paying attention to it while your army is out and vulnerable like that. So some interesting dynamics come down here, but a big drop here in the main. He could get this Robo. This would actually hurt him quite a bit. And in preparation, he already has the Twilight Council on the way. Is he actually going to get this Robo? Yeah, he does. He does sack his whole army for it. So I don't know if that was actually worth it in the end. I guess puCK's tech is pretty delayed as he does have to restart his Robo. But the Templar Archive is almost done. He does have charge. His upgrades are pretty good. Also on the other side, Top's upgrades are not the greatest. So still, even though he got that, I don't think that was a favorable trade for Top at all. By the way, I have to say Top's third base feels extremely late. There was a little bit of a Disruptor drop here. The Cyclone does go ahead and lock on. Still going to kill a handful of SCVs. And I believe what happened is puCK tried to drop in here, and Top pulled his SCV, so puCK just loaded back up. But then the Disruptor got targeted by the Cyclone. So this is pretty sad as far as the Cyclone being able to defend quite a bit. Almost in time to turn this back on, but the Cyclone does go ahead and nail it. So Cyclones are still pretty good for base defense, something that we hadn't really considered until we started watching Legacy of the Void games. So kind of an interesting dynamic there. puCK doing his best to try to deny this. So the biggest thing with Legacy of the Void, I have to say, that I've noticed so far, is that denying things like expansions and causing your opponent to be supply blocked are so important in this game. Considering the economic pacing is up, you can assume that if you were able to block your opponent's expansion for a little while, it's such a much more dramatic effect than it was in Heart of the Swarm. Like, I would say 50% more important than it was in Heart of the Swarm, considering the economic pace. Top is just kind of asleep at the wheel with this command center, though, so he definitely needs to get this thing mining, considering he did pay a lot for that to have it going. And he's been behind on economy for a little while, as puCK's sitting up around 60 workers. And Top has not had the economic pacing that puCK has so far. So just going to try to see how he can engage this. This is where it's going to start to get a little bit scary, especially if Top was keeping up on those Widow Mines, but he does try and target down some of this army, not really paying too much attention. Could have probably gotten that Archon for free, but a little bit of a drop here from the back, or I guess a run by or something. And the mine actually kills quite a bit, so a bunch more workers dropping here, down to 23 workers killed. Disruptor's going to blow up the army again. So again, this is, I can't stress enough that you have to be paying attention to your army when you're out on the map like this, or else those disruptors are going to catch you off guard and just pummel you for not being very attentive. So puCK getting some amazing detonations. The economy gap starting to close just a little bit as puCK has lost quite a bit of workers. This army still isn't strong enough to deal with Tops right now, though, so he needs to be a little bit careful, unless he just gets insane disruptor hits like he's had so far. One thing you'd really like to see is, instead of these Archons, probably research Storm. He does have the gas for it, so he could probably go ahead and grab that here in the near future. Cyclone's kind of AFKing. I have no idea what they're doing way out here, but they do take a little bit of damage, kind of inconsequential. One Zealot, nope, never mind. Okay, neither side really wants to finish off these kills, I guess. But obviously a lot going on. Here's a range upgrade for the Cyclones, so he's going to probably be relying on Cyclones a little bit more often throughout this game. The range upgrade basically allows you to get longer lock-ons at the beginning of that cycle, and in the future it's going to reflect the Cyclone's staying distance as far as when it's already locked onto a target. So Top going to try to get something done with this drop. Did just go ahead and kill a pylon. Second drop here going to pick off, or no, never mind. Stalkers are just going to blink away, so puCK really on top of his army control here. But I'm still kind of worried for puCK's overall army composition here. And this is where Legacy of the Void is getting a little bit strange, because the economic pacing is so fast that it almost feels like you should be making as many workers as you did in Heart of the Swarm. But puCK can certainly afford this. As this base isn't mining gas, he could afford a few more workers here on these minerals as well. So it's kind of weird. The pacing feels very strange right now, and it's very foreign, but I think we're going to see people start to get a little bit more used to it and keep their worker count up, kind of like where it was before in the other games. But it definitely doesn't feel as necessary in this one. This drop's getting a lot of work done, by the way. The Mothership Core just recalled here so it could overcharge. So puCK's doing everything he can to try and stop this, but still getting really good mileage off these drops is Top. So even though Terran buyout did get a little bit changed here for Legacy of the Void, it still is very formidable. But yeah, going back to the economics here, puCK still has some mineral patches that could be mined from, some empty space here on these bases, so there's definitely more room to play with as far as economy in this game. It's going to take a little while for people to get used to this. Disruptor getting really brave here, blows up a few units, but it's going to pay for its life. So unfortunately not getting too much done with that one. But I guess with how the Disruptors have been going so far this game, puCK probably couldn't have asked for too much more. Drop still being annoying over here, trying to kill off some pylons. Probably going to redrop now that the Nexus Cannon is worn off. Still a handful of Stalkers here, so they could deal with that. Excuse me. Cyclones locking onto the Stalkers here, and you can see, even if you blink away from this right now, the Cyclones can still hit these units, so that's really annoying that you can't blink yourself to safety. It's kind of just blinking yourself to an edge where they can still hit you. So kind of annoying there. The drop does come back down. Stalkers are plentiful here enough to go ahead and push this away. You will want to blink on top of these medevacs so we can get these things down. And yeah, Top just not even really paying attention. They're just going to die anyway. puCK trying to do a little bit of work here. It's becoming a little bit of a dance between these Cyclones and the Stalkers, as they can kind of... So typically in PvT, especially in Heart of the Swarm, the Blink Stalkers were kind of your little poking force, and it seems like the Cyclones really eliminate that possibility, where the... whoa, this is a huge drop. Let me finish my thought here really quickly. And that is that the Stalkers were typically your force that you would just poke up with and try to kill whatever you can, but it seems like... in the future, wow, puCK actually spots this drop. it seems like now in Legacy of the Void that's not going to be too much of a thing if they have a lot of Cyclones out, because the Cyclones will win that fight. Disruptor rolls in here, by the way. Unfortunately, kind of dancing back and forth with this Disruptor, so not getting the greatest hits, but still every little bit helps against these type of drops. And this just might turn into a full-on base trade. So puCK was on the wrong side of the map, and he just realized, like, okay, if you're just going to Doom Drop me, then I'm just going to make this a game of attrition and just try to kill off everything you have. Maybe accidentally activating this thing and daring him to come down the ramp was puCK. Obviously he doesn't have vision up there, so trying to just make his best guess and kind of call his moves before they happen. But yeah, this is a full-on base trade right now, as puCK has basically no production left in his main. He's going to have to make a whole bunch of them at another place. But in the meantime, Top's still losing all of his bases here as he's flying away in orbital. And puCK trying to break out of here right now as the Cyclones do have him a little bit cornered. The range on these things is insane, by the way. This is basically Tempest range on factory units. That's pretty crazy as far as the distance here. puCK trying to blow up this army that's coming at him, and he's still trying to hold off the best he can with his minimal amount of units, some Archons, some Zealots. The good thing against base trades here is that the Terran army does tend to get whittled down the longer it's on the map, because medevac energy isn't infinite, and the Protoss can still warp in. By the way, the extra gateways we were talking about the puCK needed to add, those are on the way, and a Dark Shrine's on the way. So this is a really good idea. I can't center my vision. Oh, it's right here. That's why. So Dark Shrine on the way is going to basically say, you know, I killed a lot of orbitals, I killed a lot of bases, so hopefully I'll be able to catch you not having enough scans to deal with all the DTs I'm going to make. A little bit of an engagement here. The Disruptors are still not really doing anything. They kind of filter over into the left-hand side of the Terran army, so getting some decent connections here, blowing up his own Zealots, as these things do still deal friendly fire. Top kind of does win that engagement in the middle of the map, but puCK still has a lot more stable economy right now. And once he gets his production up, he can probably start to hold these bigger Terran attacks. puCK has the money, so he just says, why not? I'm just going to go ahead and take another base during all the craziness here. And little decisions like that in a big base trade type of game are usually what wins you the game. So Top charging in here, trying to get what he can. puCK's army is looking pretty meager right now. So Top has a pretty decent advantage. Here come the DTs right now, though. So the question is, did Top actually save scans to deal with this, considering he was likely dropping mules during the entire time when he was trying to recover from this base trade? So DT's doing a ton of work. Finally, a scan does come down, and the DT will eventually get picked off. Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, he gets locked onto by the Cyclone. So just at the very end of that scan, DT does go down. So more DTs coming in here, by the way. So this is turning into a really weird game where puCK is just barely holding with DTs of all units. Another scan comes down, and he just merges it into an Archon to make him waste more time. So that's a nice move there from puCK. I mean, those two were going to die anyway, so you might as well. puCK transferring over to this new base here. And like we said, all this extra infrastructure, extra bases and stuff like that is going to make a pretty big difference. So we'll have to see if he's able to actually pull this out, because Top, he's starting to mine out of these bases here. He's basically on one base worth of mining and might not even drop mules anymore, considering he knows the DTs are an inevitability. So the Stalkers here really need to do a lot of work, because he can warp in a lot of Zealots. His Cybernetics core is not done yet, so as much work as possible can be done by these Stalkers needs to get done. He basically needs to kill medevacs and kind of put this army on a timer. So killing the rocks here to cut off these Zealots, really cute stuff here from Top, as puCK tries to break those Zealots out. So you can see these guys attacking the rocks during this chaos. The Zealots are doing really well against this army, though, and like I said, these three Stalkers are basically need to carry for a little while against these medevacs, considering Top is going to be so starved. Look at Top's money. He has 19 gas and barely any minerals. 12 workers, 11 workers right now, as the DT is slicing up a whole bunch of stuff here over at the third base. The Marines do eventually clean it up. Now Top wants the rocks back, so geez, man, pick your battles. Gotta knock them down and then knock them down again. So kind of a weird dynamic there with the rocks. Not something you see every day. These Stalkers, once again, look how much they're picking off these medevacs. And once this army starts to run out of healing potential, these Zealots are eventually going to clean them up for pretty cheap. Going for the surround here with the Archon. And if he can blink on top of these medevacs, this will basically end the game. And yeah, he does target these two down, so Top just says GG, and he is dead. So a pretty wild game there from both sides, but you can see that the strategy has shifted away from those Oracles a little bit, at least from puCK. But still, the Disruptors are definitely a thing. Charge Zealot's definitely a thing. And you'll note that in the late game, he was running basically 100% gateway units. So I think gateway units are definitely on the rise now that the Marauders have been nerfed a little bit, now that Protoss has a little bit more options as far as their mix-ins. So pretty cool game there from both these players. Again, guys, check out puCK's stream, which is down in the description if you want to see some first-person view games from him. Always very welcoming of having new viewers on his stream. But yeah, I'll be back with more videos here really soon, so check a lookout for those in just a little bit. Check a lookout. That doesn't even make sense, but I think that's where you say this replay is over. So GG, well played. Thanks for watching, guys.